Thank you, everybody. It is the first Friday of the month, and it is August. And seems like we just started this adventure yesterday. We've got some really good speakers in the past months. Today we got two great speakers we're going to interview. Just a couple real quick announcements. Remember, we do this every month because the most important person to lead is yourself. Remember the podcast that Eric Kloss does every month can be found on Apple, YouTube, and Spotify. These mentoring calls are about to be posted on YouTube as well. So we look forward to everybody going out and subscribing and listening to these calls, especially if you were to have missed one. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that is not something that is a stranger to probably any of us. It probably is a topic that we deal with every single day. But today's topic will be challenges of the new leader. We have two guests today, April Miller, who is the EMS chief at Roane County EMS. We also have Justin Pierce, who is one of her captains. April has 23 years of EMS. She's been at Roane County as the chief for 2 years. Justin's been at Roane County for 5 years and captain for 2 years. So let's just dig in and get started. These two folks got some great information to share. I'm looking forward to having a discussion conversation with them. April, you came from the outside. You were promoted as the chief within a few months. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts and feelings on leadership and how that affected the transition into chief at Roane County EMS.
Well, first, thank you for having us. We are excited to be here, and yeah, I moved to Roane County EMS about a little over 2 years ago. The chief position at that time become vacant about a week after I started. But I had just transitioned from a long-term career at another service where I'd held various leadership positions, and I was here to be a truck medic to do my job and go home. I didn't know anybody here; they didn't know me, so there wasn't a whole lot of interest at that time. But a couple months had went by before Director Suter opened the position up, and I did some soul searching and reflection, and decided to go ahead and shoot my shot at that and go for it. But all that back and forth soul searching didn't change the fact that these people didn't know me, and I didn't really know them. Even when Tim finally announced that April would be the new operations chief, we had somebody say, "April who?" So that was definitely, it was going to be challenging, and I knew that. But I also knew that I had some really big advantages on my side. As a lifelong student of leadership, it takes all of about 5 minutes in the room with Tim Suter to know that he is also a lifelong student of leadership. And so knowing that I had a solid mentor that was there and willing to point me in the right direction and kind of get me over those hurdles was a big advantage. And probably the biggest advantage that I had was, whatever perceived realities that were out there, whatever chronic issues that people may have had, I wasn't a part of. I wasn't a part of creating them, so I didn't have to really start by digging myself out of a hole. So that was good. But also I don't buy into a whole lot of the conventional leadership modalities. I'm definitely more in the new age, modern style of leadership. But I knew I had a very short window of time that I was going to have to make an impression and set the precedence, and trying to figure out how to get 40 people, some of which I had never even laid eyes on, and most of which who didn't know me, to trust me and open up and let me share my vision. And I had to figure that out quick. So that was challenging, to say the least, Phil.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a challenge. So tell us about, you got there and nobody, everybody said April who, was that kind of was that something kind of lonely for you, or, what was some of those unknowns? Um, tell us a little bit about that. How did people react to you?
It was. I think for the most part they gave me the benefit of the doubt. At least that's what I thought in the beginning. I didn't know any better, so I knew that it was going to be challenging, but it was nothing that we wasn't wasn't going to be able to overcome.
Okay, all right. So Justin is one of your captains, and he's been there for 2 years, and he was a captain before you came to before you became the actual chief. So he comes to you about 6 months ago and has a confession. Justin, tell us about why you were afraid of April becoming your next chief.
Well, obviously, you have that fear of the unknown. And like she said, she was new here. And we all like our comfort zone. As much as I can preach about how change is good, we still have that fear of the unknown. She mentioned having a short window to make a difference, and she definitely capitalized on that. But yeah, I came to her 6 months ago ish and told her, I didn't want you to have this, and nobody else did either because we all didn't know her. We didn't know if she was qualified for this. But she's came in and made a very big impression. You know, one of the biggest things that sparked it all was taking us to the excuse me, the leadership conference, and that's motivated everybody here, not only me, but it's motivated me to chase my dreams. Of obtained 3 new certifications and started a degree program since that conference. And without her taking the initiative to take all of us to that, I don't know that I would have done those things. I turned that talk into game. So
I think it's pretty cool that you came to her 6 months ago and said, I was really just praying you didn't get this job because
sure.
we didn't know who you were. That's pretty cool. April, tell us about some of those salty medics. Uh, April, you came out with a really neat little quote that I promise you I'm going to use. If you're okay with it, I'm going to give you credit for it because I think it's awesome. Tell us about some of the lessons you've learned from just sitting down and listening to your people, earning their trust. Because as you said a while ago, that's part of what you do or what you've done, and you continue to do that even in 2 years in. Because as I mentioned last week at the TIMSA conference when Eric and I were doing our leadership program, people beat, our followers, our people beat at the sound of trust. And if you don't build that trust within your group, your team, your organization, then you can probably just say, well, I'll be a lonely leader. And that should never happen. Leaders don't have to be lonely at the top. And if you are, then you definitely need to step back, reevaluate why that's the case or why you feel like that. And definitely, trust could be a first place to start. And then there's other things as well. We'll talk a few of those about those. But you and I, when we talked getting ready for this call, you talked about something that I'll call it a concept. It's really a great quote that you kind of came up with. So share, if you don't mind, share that with the group.
Well, I didn't come up with it, but yeah, we all have. Well, as leaders, I think that we should pay more attention to the small stuff, and when you have those rumors and those that gossip and those complaints coming in, that we need to kind of pay attention to that. And most people that have some kind of issue, and I've shared this with the captains, they're going to come to you. They're looking to be helped, heard, or hugged. And if we can figure out which one those are, like that's mastering 90% of leadership. And those that come and need help, they physically need you to do something, either intervene or get them some kind of equipment, resources, or whatever. And those that need to be heard, they just need you to listen and validate their feelings and listen to what they got to say. And if they're looking to be hugged, they just need to know everything's going to be okay. And I think the human psychology behind that side is physical touch, but knowing that somebody's there, knowing that things are going to be okay, it's going to work out, like that's big to them. And so that was kind of my first goal. If I wanted them to trust me, is I had to go talk to them, and I had to listen to those little things and start chipping those little things away. And it reminds me of the psychology thing of the baby elephant that's chained to a tree. And it's very easy to imprison ourselves and get learned behavior. And when people get that mentality that things are not going to change, that it doesn't do any good to go say anything. So you've got to break that. And I think that's where I started, is listening to what issues they had and the things that they wanted, and kind of started chipping away at that. And as I started addressing those issues, that trust started to build.
Absolutely. So April, just in case anybody was wanting to capture that moment, helped, heard, or hugged. I love that. I mean, that is going to be a part of. So April, I got to be honest with you. I have a place that I write down a lot of notes and things like that, journal a little bit. You made it in there with that quote. So, I mean, that's awesome. So, if we don't take away anything at all on this call today, which there's lots of things we still got to get to, but if we as leaders just sit down, especially new leaders, it doesn't matter where you're at in your journey, just remember to sit down and think my people need to be helped, heard, or hugged. Whichever one falls into, one of my favorite quotes by John Maxwell is people will not give you their hand until they know your heart. And that falls into helped, hugged, or heard. It's all right there. So thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic. One of the things, April, that I really have been impressed with since you and I started, our dialogues, and I've watched you come into your position 2 years ago, and I've watched the progress that you've made there at your service, and you've done an outstanding job, in every area. Um, you definitely show that you care about your people, and a couple of episodes ago we had Jeff Davis on, and he shared with us a couple of quotes that I wanted to share with the group today that you've definitely exemplified. Is he says, our people just want to know, do you care for me? Kind of goes right along with what you're saying. You're helped, hugged, or heard. Can you help me, and can I trust you? And those are very, very vital parts of what you do every day. If you're a new leader and you're trying to figure out, hey, how do I get my people to trust me? Helped, heard, or hugged, as Jeff Davis says, do you care for me? Can you help me? And can I trust you? If you'll just live on those principles, I promise you, you will build a foundation of followers that will last a long time, and your organization will be absolutely strong. April, like I said, you really impressed me, and you've got a good group of folks. One of the things that we as leaders have to do. There's four kinds of leaders out there. Is we either add, or we either subtract, we either multiply or divide. You are, and I'm going to talk just a few minutes about that in a minute. But let me just kind of let everybody know, in April, for your comfort, you're in the multiplying, which that's good. You're there. So as leaders, we either add to our team, we either add value to our team, we either take our team and we try to, add more things to where they can actually grow as leaders, or we subtract. And those are not the places you want to be as leaders. You definitely don't want to be a subtractor. Subtractor leader comes in every day and he says, I'm going to do the bare minimum. And you guys as supervisors and captains and lieutenants, and whatever your role is, and then folks that are out there in the field, I see you out there, but I'm really not going to do anything to help you progress and promote in this industry. That's a subtracting leader, not what we want to be. Those that add, they might do the bare minimum, but they also help you a little bit, not very much. Where we need to be as leaders is exactly what you're doing in your organization, and that's multiplying. And then ultimately, what we want to do is we want to divide. We want to take those leaders and help them to help others divide and then conquer and grow more leaders. And that's part of what we're doing here on this call. We are dividing as a group of leaders and growing more leaders within our organization. So, April, tell us about the program that you guys put together following the TASA leadership class in February. Justin, shared with me, when we talked at the conference, but tell us about your program that you guys have started when you went back to your service, and as an example of multiplying and dividing leaders.
Well, to start with, we already had some things going, and we were definitely moving in the right direction. And as soon as TASA's leadership conference registration opened up, Brenda and Helen and I registered, and one day it hit me: why am I the only member of our leadership team on the operational side going to this conference. I know the power that being in that kind of environment can have on somebody. So kind of started throwing out fillers and seeing if these guys would be interested, if it's something we could do, and they were on board. So we started rearranging schedules and getting things set up, and we got that done. And then you guys come out and announce that leadership conference as the pre-con class. So that became a top priority for me. Getting these guys off the truck and getting them in a seat in that class was number one. So we come back to the drawing board, started rearranging the schedules and getting that coverage filled and getting those guys there. And I didn't really know what to expect as I talked to them. Some of them had never even been to any kind of conference. They shared some of the leadership training they had, but I didn't know what to expect. And it became very apparent that they were intentional. They were taking notes. They were gathering the workbooks that you guys provided to make sure those come back to Roane County. They were running down speakers in the hallway. They were networking. They were engaging. Like, it was very apparent that they were hungry and they were on fire. And I knew that my goal was accomplished. But honestly, Phil, what I didn't really know is how big that fire was and how fast that was going to spread when we got back. And it is it's unbelievable. We've come back. We've Justin here and the captains, they made a list of every book that was every leadership book mentioned in the leadership course and throughout the entire conference, and came back. And I think Justin bought 6 or 7 of those books before we ever even left the conference. But
Yep.
we started talking about them, and he found one book that resonated in his soul, and he was so adamant about the book that he started to try to reach out to the author. He reached out to the author, and the book was 30 or 40 bucks. So he was trying to find a way that we could get a discount to buy in bulk, because Justin was going to buy this book for every person here. So that kind of led us into a leadership book club where we could, all read the same books and then come together and talk about the things in the books and how we can apply that here. We have so much engagement. We just looked, 50% of our staff over the course of the last 12 months has made some kind of advancement, whether that's instructor endorsements, whether that's licensure upgrade or whatever. They've got something they can add to their resume, and that's phenomenal. We've got a growth and development committee, just to how do we expand from here? What does great look like? That was our question when we met. What does great look like to you, and what can we do to get there? So we've got a lot. We've got a whole lot going on.
We've accomplished a lot in a short 5 months since that conference, that's for sure.
That's great. What was the name of that book, Justin?
People care. It really has nothing to do with, well, it has a little to do with leadership. And not all of these books have anything to do with EMS or leadership in general. It's just, some of them are just, good self-help books. But it's called People Care. It's about good bedside manner, essentially. And understanding that people don't really care how much you know. They just want to know how much you care. Hold a hand, hug somebody, let them know you're there for them. Because I feel like, at least in my generation, we lack a lot of that care, essentially, that bedside manner. We spend more time getting the knowledge and learning how to be a paramedic and worrying about medicine more than somebody else's heart. And to me, that's very important. And all these guys here know that. I'm big on taking care of people and making sure that they feel appreciated and wanted and cared for. So that's why that book was a big deal to me. It didn't resonate with everybody here, but
I,
Well,
I love the books. Like, we're getting books from everybody's, making suggestions on what books, and that really gives me insight to where they're at and where their mindset is and what's important to them. So I love it.
yeah. Well, Justin, let me reassure you that everything you just talked about in the book People Care, and I have not read that book, but I'm eager to get a hold to it and read it. But everything you just talked about has 100% to do with leadership.
sure.
So never think it doesn't. And also leadership is the same. It doesn't matter if you're in EMS, if you work for the post office, if you work for the truck driving school, it doesn't matter. Leadership is the same. The industry that you're in, may define it a little differently in some of the things that you might do. But in the principles of leadership are the same regardless of where you're at. And you have to care about people. That, I'll say this again. I said it in one of the other episodes that we did, and I think I mentioned it last week. The one word that we can sign up, that we can say that leadership is defined at, is others. That's people. If we don't care about our people, then we're always going to be that lonely leader at the top. And you guys are doing a great job at exemplifying that. What the four most important questions a leader can ask themselves every day is, what can I give today? April, you and Justin have talked about, and everything we've talked about in the last 20 minutes, it's hard to believe we're already at 20 minutes into this. You've talked about, hey, what can I give my people today? You've started a program. When you and I were talking, you said, hey, I'm signed up for this task of leadership thing, but why am I the only one? I got to bring my whole team with me. And that is fantastic. We need all leaders with that mentality. And then the next thing that a leader can ask themselves every day is, how can I add value to the people that work with me, my team, not work for me, work with me, my team. We are a team. And leaders who put themselves in a mindset of not people who work for me, but work with me in a team, that's a whole different mindset. And things progress a whole lot better. And then the next thing that a leader can ask themselves every day is, how can I help others grow and get better? And that's where we talk about the multiplying and dividing. And you're doing that. Leaders who are adders and subtractors, they never think of it that way. They never think about how I can help people and get better. That's not something in their daily agenda. And then the last thing is, whose day can I make better just by being there and giving them more than I take? That's that's a lot right there. Especially leaders every day get bogged down with all the things that you have to do. But just to take that extra moment to say, hey, how can I make your day better, and not give more than and give more than I take. So that's some good stuff. We're actually 22 after. Gosh, so many more things we'd like to talk about. Let me just kind of check real quick to see if we got any questions. And says, all right, we have a question here. What's something that you really had to rethink from preparing to becoming a leader after having had some time leading your team? Let me reread that question. What's something you really had to rethink from preparing to become a leader after having had some time to leading your team?
So yeah, when as a lifelong learner of leadership, you come in and you learn a lot of the conventional style leadership. And I knew, like we come in and literally, within a week our chief resigned. Within a month we got a new county executive. So it's I come in trying to think some of the old school conventional wisdom of leadership, and that just wasn't me. So I had to rethink. If I'm going to do this, the old school leadership's lonely at the top, and I don't think it has to be. And the old school wisdom of, if you don't have followers, you're not leading anybody. Well, I'm not here to create followers. I am here to create other leaders. So had to embrace what my thought and my process was, and kind of, I feel like we are all one courageous, uncomfortable decision away from wild success, and having to, have that courage to stand up and say, we're going to push this conventional stuff to the side, and kind of shoot my shot there on the vision of what I saw, and how we could get there.
Good answer. Good answer. Got several questions coming in here, April. This is fantastic. Has any of your past mentors demonstrated the help, heard, or hug mentality on you, and how did that make you feel? That's a great question.
Uh, you know, I would refer back to Tim Suter on this. He is excellent at listening. You come in and he's doing something, he'll push his computer aside and sit down and listen, and knowing that, being able to listen to concerns and validate those feelings. I lots of experiences where I've went to people and, I've got this issue or I've got that, and it's, about somebody else, and their immediate reaction is to start defending that other person, and that's all good and well, but it definitely makes you feel like your feelings are not validated, and Tim Suter is excellent at listening. So that touch. I mean, that's part of that whole. It doesn't take long to realize he's also a lifelong leadership and following that suit.
Yeah. Well, it's a great example. I mean, I've known Tim for a long time, and he definitely is that. So and it makes the world and your job much better when you have a leader who is supportive like that and understands about growing other leaders. Another question here is, what has been the most challenging part of the journey?
I mean, after getting the trust is really is finding ways to engage people. I've got a lot of good problems that people would probably die to have, but people knocking on my door. I want to do more. I want to be involved and trying to figure out how to do that, and not fall into that go to one person leadership style. And I've had to come back and tell the captains, and they come in, do you want to go the leadership style or do you want to go to the education side, just so we had more opportunities to involve more people. And Tim told me very first, and it's not his quote, and he tells me all the time, I think it's from Bear Bryant, but very early on, the more people that plan the battle, the less people there are to battle the plan. So engagement has been an all-time high, and trying to make sure that I spread that out has been a challenge at sometimes, but it's been phenomenal.
We got another great question. I got to tell you, this help, hugged, or heard is a very popular thing. So, I think you're going to see this out there amongst a lot of our services. But the question here says, how do you deal with the gossip among personnel, those who are resistance to your help, heard, hug method, and want to complain and drag the organization down?
So I'm a firm believer that when you raise the bar and you set that standard, that those that want to will, and those that don't will eliminate themselves from the equation. And it's not something that we necessarily have to do. As leaders, we tend to give all of our energy toward the negative. And again, that old school wisdom might say that I'm playing favorites, and I say I am working with the willing. And those that want to do more, that's who I'm going to focus my energy on. That's who I'm going to help grow. And those that don't, that's okay. If you're here to be a truck medic, do your job and go home, that's great. I don't have a problem with that. And by not giving the energy into that, it doesn't seem to fester as much.
Yeah, yeah. As leaders, you cannot spend all day work with those low performers and people who are dragging it down. You got to spend your time with those high performers, and you got to spend your time with those who are kind of in the middle and pull them over on the high side. Otherwise, you'll never accomplish anything. It is hard to believe that we are 2 minutes to this month is over, and we, gosh, had so much more to talk about. So I definitely want to talk about a quote here real quick, April, that when you and I were talking, because I think it's fantastic for what you talked about. You said that the foundations you build today will be the foundations you stand on tomorrow. And that is spot on. And you're building a fantastic foundation in your organization. I also want to give you kudos. The things that you're doing, the leadership you're exemplifying, you have no staffing issues. You got double paramedics. You got a waiting list for people to come to work at Roane County EMS. And we all know that those are things that are big issues across this country. So kudos to you for that as well. Everybody, thank you so much for joining. Next month, please come back. On September 6th, we will have Michael Wallace on. Michael is the chief of Williamson County EMS. Many people have known Michael for a very long time. Great leader, great friend. We definitely look forward to having him. Remember that the most important person you'll ever lead is yourself. And if there's ever anything that we can do to help you, please feel free to reach out to myself, Lee, anybody that's a part of this podcast and also this leadership call. As I mentioned in the beginning, we will have these mentoring calls posted on YouTube very soon for those who maybe want to watch them again or didn't get a chance to watch them in real time. Thank you so much. Everybody have a blessed day and a wonderful weekend. Look forward to seeing you September 6th. Thank you.
Thank you.